When Earth's deepest secrets rose from the abyss, a signal that changed everything. Dr. Sarah Chun pressed her face against the porthole of the research vessel Deep Current, watching the black waters of the Pacific stretch endlessly in all directions. 3 months ago, she had been cataloging ancient pottery shards in a comfortable university lab. Now she found herself floating above the deepest part of Earth's oceans, chasing a signal that shouldn't exist. The sonar reading had appeared on. Routine deep-sea mapping scans. Not just any reading, a perfect geometric pattern buried 11 kilometers beneath the ocean floor in the Mariana Trench. The formation was too precise, too large, and too deep to be natural. When the first images came back from the autonomous probes, Sarah's hands had trembled as she studied them. "Still can't believe what we're seeing down there, Captain Narcus," Rivera said, joining her at the observation deck. His weathered face showed the strain of weeks spent coordinating the most complex deep-sea operation in human history. "My grandfather used to tell stories about things sleeping in the deep. Never thought I'd be the one to wake them up." Sarah turned from the window, her dark eyes reflecting the concern they all felt. "The energy signatures are getting stronger. Whatever's down there, it's responding to our presence." The discovery had started small. A sonar anomaly detected by the research vessel Cousteau during a routine mapping mission. The computers had flagged it as equipment malfunction, a solid geometric structure the size of Manhattan, buried deeper than any human had ever drilled. But when 3 different vessels confirmed the reading, the scientific community had gone. SILENT Dr. James Park emerged from the communications room, his laptop clutched against his chest. As the team's quantum physicist, he had been working around the clock to understand the energy readings coming from the deep. "Sarah Marcus, you need to see this. The interference patterns are changing." They crowded around his screen as he pulled up the latest data. Waves of energy were pulsing from the buried structure in perfect mathematical sequences. The signals were affecting every piece of electronic equipment within a 50-kilometer radius. Satellites couldn't maintain connection. GPS systems failed. Even the most hardened military electronics experienced random shutdowns. "It's like the structure is testing us," James said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Each pulse is different, more complex. It's scanning our technology, learning from it." Sarah studied the patterns, her archaeological training helping her recognize something others had missed. "These aren't random. Look at the spacing, the repetition. This is language." The Descent Admiral Lisa Thompson arrived on the Deep Current. That evening, her military transport helicopter barely managing to land on the vessel's small deck despite the electronic interference. She was a woman who had spent 30 years in the Navy, but nothing had prepared her for what the scientists were showing her. "How many structures have you found?" she asked, her voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to making decisions that affected thousands of lives. 17 confirmed, Sarah replied, spreading a world map across the table. "Every major ocean trench has at least one. The Pacific has 7. They're all identical in size and depth, all emitting the same energy." Signatures. Admiral Thompson studied the map, her strategic mind already working through the implications. "Have you attempted direct contact?" "We've sent 12 probes," Marcus said. "The first 11 stopped functioning the moment they got within 1 kilometer of the structure. The 12th probe." He paused, glancing at his colleagues. The 12th probe came back changed. They led the Admiral to the ship's laboratory, where the recovered probe sat on an examination table. The device looked normal, except for one detail that made everyone who saw it step back instinctively. The probe's metal surface was covered in symbols that hadn't been there before, intricate patterns that seemed to shift and move when observed directly. "The symbols appeared overnight," James explained. "They're not etched or painted. They're part of the metal itself now, as if the structure rewrote the probe's atomic composition." Admiral Thompson leaned closer, her trained eye studying the alien markings. "Can you read them?" "We're working on it," Sarah said. "But there's something else." The probe's memory banks contain data it couldn't have collected. Star charts, gravitational measurements, information about solar systems we've never observed. It's like something downloaded its knowledge into our machine. The Admiral straightened, her expression grim. "I need to contact Washington. This is no longer a scientific expedition." The first response that night, as the deep current rocked gently the Pacific swells, Sarah couldn't sleep. She found herself back at the observation deck, staring into the dark waters below. Somewhere in those depths, something ancient was waiting. The ship's emergency alarm shattered the silence. Sarah rushed to the bridge, where Marcus and his crew were staring at their instruments in disbelief. "What's happening?" she asked. "The structure," Marcus said, his voice tight with tension. "It's moving." On the sonar display, the massive geometric shape was rising. Not quickly, but steadily, leaving behind the rocky depths where it had rested for unknown ages. The energy signatures were intensifying, and every electronic device on the ship was struggling to maintain function. James burst onto the bridge, his laptop showing readings that defied explanation. "The electromagnetic field is expanding. It's not just affecting our ship anymore. It's reaching the surface." Admiral Thompson's radio crackled with static-filled reports from around the world. Similar structures were rising in ocean trenches. Everywhere. The Mariana Trench, the Puerto Rico Trench, the Java Trench, all showing identical activity. "Sir," came a voice through the interference, "we're detecting gravitational anomalies. The rising structures are affecting tidal patterns globally." Sarah watched the sonar screen as the structure continued its ascent. At its current rate, it would reach the ocean floor in 6 hours. "We need to get closer," she said. "Absolutely not," Admiral Thompson replied. "We're evacuating this area immediately." "Wait," Sarah said, studying the probe's symbols more closely. "I think I understand part of the message. These symbols here, they're not just language. They're coordinates." She pointed to specific markings on the probe's surface. "This sequence repeats in 17 different variations, one for each structure. But there's more. These symbols at the bottom, they're not pointing to locations on Earth. They're pointing to space." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Marcus was the first to speak. "You're saying these things are communicating with something off-world?" Before Sarah could answer, the ship's radar operator called out in alarm. "Contact! Multiple contacts approaching from the southwest. Fast movers, altitude varying from sea. Level to 50,000 feet." Admiral Thompson grabbed her radio. "Identification? Unknown, sir. They're not showing up on any database. Configuration unlike anything we've seen." Through the bridge windows, they could see lights approaching across the water. Not the steady lights of aircraft or ships, but pulsing, shifting illumination that seemed to dance across the sky. "Those aren't human," James whispered. The lights grew brighter, and the electromagnetic interference intensified. Equipment throughout the ship began failing systematically. But in the growing chaos, Sarah noticed something else. The symbols on the recovered probe were glowing, pulsing in rhythm with the approaching lights. "It's not an attack," she said. "Suddenly, it's a response. The structures aren't weapons. They're beacons." The ancient message, as the unknown vessels drew closer, the structure beneath them continued its rise. The sonar showed it was now only 8 kilometers below the surface. Its massive form, creating currents that could be felt throughout the water column. Admiral Thompson was coordinating with naval forces around the world. But the reports were all the same. Structures rising, unknown contacts approaching, and electronic systems failing everywhere. Humanity's technology was being overwhelmed by forces beyond their understanding. "Sarah," James called out, "the probe is broadcasting something." The recovered device was emitting a low-frequency signal that seemed to bypass their failing electronics. As they watched, the symbols on its surface began to rearrange themselves, forming new patterns. "It's trying to communicate with us directly," Sarah realized. The probe has become a translator. The new symbols were simpler, more geometric. Sarah had seen similar patterns in her archaeological work, basic, mathematical concepts that any intelligent species would recognize. Prime numbers, geometric ratios, planetary orbits. "It's showing. U.S. Earth," she said, tracing the symbols with her finger. "Our solar system, our planet's position. But look at this." She pointed to a complex series of markings. "These represent time, vast amounts of time. This structure has been here for millions of years." The symbols continued to shift, showing new concepts. Star systems dying, civilizations falling, darkness spreading across the galaxy. And then a new image formed. Earth, young and primitive, but somehow marked as significant. "We were chosen," Sarah whispered. "Long before humans existed, something marked our planet as important." The approaching lights were now visible as actual vessels, sleek, organic-looking craft that seemed to flow through the air rather than fly. They took positions around the deep current, maintaining perfect formation despite the electromagnetic chaos. Admiral Thompson's radio crackled, with reports from around the world. "Sir, the unknown vessels are maintaining position at all sites. No aggressive actions detected, but they're not responding to any communications." The structure beneath them continued its ascent. 6 kilometers below the surface now, its massive form was creating visible disturbances in the water. Whirlpools formed and dissipated as the geometric shape pushed through currents that had flowed unchanged for millennia. "It's beautiful," Marcus said, watching the sonar display. "Whatever it is, it's beautiful." The probe's symbols showed one final image, the structure breaking the surface of the ocean, its alien geometry revealed to human eyes for the first time. But this wasn't a recent event. The image showed humans standing on the structure's surface, working alongside beings of light and energy. "It's showing us the future," Sarah said. "Our future." The rising as dawn broke over the Pacific, the structure was only 2 kilometers below the surface. The unknown vessels had been joined by others, forming a vast aerial formation that stretched to the horizon, but they remained silent, waiting. The electromagnetic interference was so intense now that only the most basic systems continued to function. The probe had become their only reliable source of information, its alien-modified components somehow immune to the energy fields. "New symbols," James announced. "It's showing us something different now." The probe's surface displayed images of space, not the peaceful void humans knew, but space filled with moving darkness. Shadows that consumed stars, emptiness that spread like infection between systems. The images showed world after world going dark, their light extinguished by something that had no name. "An invasion," Admiral Thompson said grimly. "Something is coming." But the next images showed the structures, not just Earth's, but thousands of them scattered across the galaxy. Ancient guardians left by a civilization that had fought the darkness before. Each structure was positioned at a strategic point, each one waiting for the right moment to awaken. "We're not alone," Sarah said, tears streaming down her face. "We were never alone." The structure broke the surface of the Pacific Ocean at 0800 hours. The first human witnesses to see it complete were the crew of the Deep Current, and what they saw challenged everything they thought they knew about their world. The structure was not a ship or a building. It was a living thing, made of materials that flowed like liquid metal, but held shapes more complex than any human architecture. Its surface was covered in patterns that pulsed with inner light, and it sang, a deep, harmonic sound that could be felt in the bones of everyone who heard it. The unknown vessels descended toward the structure's surface, and for the first time, their occupants became visible. They were beings of pure energy, humanoid in shape, but composed of flowing light. They moved across the structure's surface with purpose, activating systems that had slept for eons. "They're preparing for something," Sarah said, watching through binoculars. "Look at the patterns on the structure's surface. They're changing, becoming more complex." The probe showed them one final image, the darkness in space, closer now, moving toward Earth with purpose and hunger. The ancient enemy was returning, and humanity's long isolation was about to end. But the structure was ready. As the crew of the Deep Current watched in awe, the ancient guardian began to sing louder. Its song was picked up by others around the world, creating a harmony that resonated through the Earth itself. The beings of light turned toward the human ship, and for the first time they spoke, not with words, but with thoughts that appeared directly in the minds of everyone present. "The time of hiding is over. The guardians wake. Will you stand with us, children of Earth?" Admiral Thompson stepped forward, her military training warring with the impossibility of what she was experiencing. "What do you need from us?" "Your courage, your adaptability, your refusal to surrender in the face of impossible odds. The Guardians require consciousness to operate at full capacity. We offer partnership. Your minds joined with our technology, your spirits linked with our purpose." Sarah looked around at her colleagues, seeing the same mixture of fear and determination in their eyes. "What happens if we refuse? Then you die as all the others died. But you will not refuse. We chose your species for a reason. You are the ones who climb the highest mountains because they are there. You are the ones who sail into unknown waters because they call to you. You are the ones who reach for the stars because you cannot bear to be limited by the sky." The structure's song grew louder, and answering calls could be heard from around the world. 17 ancient guardians, waking after millions of years of sleep, preparing for a war that would determine the fate of not just Earth, but the entire galaxy. And in the depths of space, something dark and hungry began to accelerate toward the small blue planet that had just announced its presence to the universe. The age of humanity's innocence was ending. The age of humanity's destiny was about to begin. Ancient Guardians, answer humanity's call, the choice that would define humanity. 3 days after the first Guardian broke the surface of the Pacific, the world had changed forever. Every major government had mobilized their military forces, but conventional weapons were useless against beings made of pure energy. The 17 Guardian structures now stood like ancient monuments across Earth's oceans, each one surrounded by vessels of light that defied human understanding. Dr. Sarah Chun stood on the deck of the Deep Current, watching the Pacific Guardian pulse with inner light. The structure had grown since emerging from the depths, its crystalline surfaces extending upward like a mountain made of living metal. The beings of light moved across its surface in complex patterns, preparing systems that had waited millions of years for this moment. "The deep space observatories have confirmed it," Admiral Thompson said, approaching with a tablet displaying the latest reports. "Something is coming. Multiple objects, each one the size of a small moon, moving faster than anything we've ever detected." Sarah studied the data, her archaeological training helping her understand patterns that others missed. "How long do we have?" 72 hours, Thompson replied grimly. "Maybe less if they continue to accelerate." The Guardians' representatives had been clear about the threat. The Devourers, as they called them, were not merely invaders. They were a force of pure consumption, entities that fed on the life force of entire worlds. They had swept across the galaxy for millions of years, leaving behind only dead systems and empty space. "The volunteers are ready," said Captain Marcus Rivera, joining them at the railing. His weathered face showed the strain of the past 3 days, but his eyes held a determination that Sarah had come to recognize in all the military personnel. 50 of the best pilots, scientists, and engineers from around the world. They understand what they're volunteering for. The Guardian beings had explained the process with crystalline clarity. To operate at full capacity, each Guardian structure required human consciousness, not just to pilot their systems, but to merge with them completely. The volunteers would become part of the Guardian network. Their minds expanded beyond human limitations, their bodies transformed into something new. "Have you decided?" Sarah asked Admiral Thompson. The Admiral nodded slowly. "I've been a soldier for 30 years. I've always known that someday I might have to give my life for my planet. I just never imagined it would be like this." The merging asterisk. The first volunteer was Dr. James Park, the quantum physicist who had been studying the Guardian energy signatures since the beginning. As he walked across the glowing bridge that extended from the Guardian structure to their ship, his steps were steady despite the magnitude of what he was about to do. "The process will not be painful," the Guardian beings had assured them. "Your consciousness will expand, your understanding will grow beyond current limitations. You will become something more than human, but you will remain yourself." Sarah watched through binoculars as James approached the Guardian's central spire. The structure recognized his presence, its surface patterns shifting to create a chamber that opened like a flower, blooming in fast motion. Inside, she could see flowing energy that moved like liquid light. "James, can you hear me?" She spoke into her radio. "I can hear you." His voice came back, calm and determined. "I can feel it calling." "It's beautiful, Sarah. It's like standing at the edge of the universe and seeing all the possibilities that exist." He stepped into the chamber, and the Guardian structure pulsed with brilliant light. For a moment, Sarah lost sight of him completely. Then the light faded, and she gasped at what she saw. James was still there, but transformed. His physical form had become translucent, filled with the same flowing energy as the Guardian beings. When he spoke, his voice carried harmonics that seemed to resonate through the water itself. "I understand now," he said, his words reaching them not through radio, but through direct thought. "The Guardians aren't just weapons. They're preservers. They've been watching over young civilizations for millions of years, waiting for the right moment to act." Through the mental link, Sarah could feel his expanded consciousness touching hers. She saw glimpses of the galaxy as the Guardian saw. It not empty space dotted with worlds, but a vast network of interconnected life, each species contributing something unique to the whole. "The Devourers see only food," James continued. "But we see potential. Every species that survives their assault becomes stronger, more adaptable. Humanity's time of testing has come. The network awakens around the world. Other volunteers were making the same choice. In the Indian Ocean, a former astronaut named Elena Vasquez merged with the Guardian there, her consciousness expanding to encompass the orbital mechanics of entire solar systems. In the Atlantic, a marine biologist named David Kim became one with the Guardian's living systems, his understanding of life itself growing beyond human comprehension. Each merger sent ripples through the Guardian network. Sarah could feel them through her connection to James. 50 brilliant minds joining together, their individual strengths combining into something greater than the sum of its parts. "We're receiving new data," Admiral Thompson announced. Devourers have detected our activation. They're accelerating." The transformed volunteers worked within human speed, their consciousness now operating at the speed of light itself. Through her link with James, Sarah watched as the Guardian network analyzed the approaching threat. The Devourers weren't just ships. They were living beings, each one a collective consciousness made up of the consumed essence of 1,000 dead worlds. "They're afraid," James told her, his transformed voice carrying overtones of surprise. "For the first time in millions of years, they're afraid. They remember the last time they faced the Guardians." The Pacific Guardian began to change, its crystalline structure flowing like water as it reconfigured itself. Weapon systems that had never been designed by human minds emerged from its surface, each one calibrated to fight an enemy that existed partially outside normal spacetime. "Sarah," James said, "you need to see this." Through their mental link, he showed her the Guardian's memory banks. She saw the last great war, fought millions of years ago between the Guardians and the Devourers. Entire solar systems had been battlegrounds with forces beyond human comprehension, clashing across the void. The Guardians had won, but at a terrible cost. Their creators, a species whose name was lost to time, had sacrificed themselves to power the final assault. The Guardians had been left without consciousness to guide them, forced to sleep and wait for another species to emerge that could take up the mantle. "Why us?" Sarah asked. "Why humans?" "Because you never surrender," James replied. "Every Guardian facility in the galaxy has been monitoring developing civilizations for millions of years. Most species, when faced with extinction, accept their fate. Some fight, but only until the cost becomes too high. Only humans fight beyond reason, beyond hope, beyond the possibility of victory. The Devour Fleet arrives, the enemy arrived ahead of schedule, their massive forms blotting out the stars as they entered Earth's solar system. From the Guardian structure, Sarah could see them through the network's enhanced sensors, beings of living, darkness that moved through space like oil, spreading across water. The Devourer Fleet was vast beyond comprehension. Hundreds of entities, each one the size of a moon, accompanied by smaller craft that swarmed like insects around rotting meat. They moved with purpose and intelligence, their formation designed to envelope Earth completely. "They're not just planning to destroy us," Admiral Thompson observed, studying the tactical displays. "They're planning to consume us slowly, to savor the experience." The Guardian network responded with coordinated precision. The 17 structures around Earth began to sing, their harmonics creating a defensive field that extended beyond the planet's atmosphere. The transformed volunteers worked as one mind, their human creativity combining with Guardian technology to create strategies that had never existed before. "First contact in 30 minutes, James announced. "All defensive. Systems are online." The Devourers sent forward their scouts, smaller entities that moved like living shadows through space. They expected to find a defenseless world, as they had found so many times before. Instead, they encountered something they had never faced. Guardian technology powered by human determination. The first, Devourer Scout, simply ceased to exist as it touched the Guardian's defensive field. The second managed to penetrate deeper before being unmade at the molecular level. The third actually reached Earth's atmosphere before being caught in a web of crystalline energy and torn apart. "They're learning," Sarah observed. "Each attack is more sophisticated than the last." "So are we," James replied. "Watch." The Guardian network had been analyzing each attack, learning from every encounter. When the fourth scout arrived, instead of destroying it, they captured it. The entity writhed in crystalline bonds as the Guardians examined its structure, learning the secrets of Devourer technology. "Impossible," Admiral Thompson breathed. "They're reverse engineering the enemy in real time." "Not reverse engineering," James corrected. "Understanding. The Guardians don't just copy technology, they comprehend it at the quantum level. Every Devourer we capture makes the entire network stronger." The first battle, the main Devourer fleet attacked at dawn, their dark forms eclipsing the sun as they descended toward Earth. They came not as ships, but as living storms, reality bending around them as they moved through dimensions that human science couldn't name. the Guardian Network rose to meet them. 17 structures launching themselves into space with impossible grace. They moved like dancers, each one following patterns that had been rehearsed for millions of years, but never performed. Sarah watched the battle unfold through her connection to James, seeing it not just with her eyes, but with senses that had no human name. The Devourers attacked with weapons that consumed light itself, creating zones of absolute darkness where nothing could exist. The Guardians responded with fields of crystalline energy that restored matter from quantum foam. They're not just fighting, Sarah realized. They're healing. Every attack the Devourers make, the Guardians are undoing. The battle raged across the solar system, forces beyond human comprehension clashing in the void between worlds. The Devourers' main strength was their ability to consume and corrupt, turning their enemies' own energy against them. But the Guardian Network was powered by something the Devourers couldn't understand or consume: human will. We're not just battery packs, James explained, as his consciousness guided Guardian weapons with surgical precision. We're the thing that makes the impossible possible. Every time a Devourer thinks they've won, human stubbornness says not yet. The tide of battle shifted when the Guardians revealed their true strategy. Instead of merely defending Earth, they began to heal the damage the Devourers had caused across the galaxy. Dark systems that had been consumed millennia ago suddenly flared back to life as in Guardian technology restored them from quantum echoes. There, bringing back the dead, Admiral Thompson whispered, watching solar systems reappear on the tactical displays. The Devourers, faced with the undoing of millions of years of conquest, made a desperate final assault. They combined their remaining forces into a single entity of pure consumption, a being of such darkness that it bent space-time around itself. Asterisk. It's heading straight for Earth, Sarah said, watching the massive form accelerate toward them. Let it come, James replied, his transformed voice carrying absolute confidence. We have something they don't expect. The human factor, the final Devourer entity, struck Earth's atmosphere with the force of a falling star, its darkness spreading across the sky like ink in water. The Guardian Network responded with everything they had, but the entity was too strong, too concentrated. It began to consume the defensive fields, growing stronger with each moment. It's feeding on our energy, Admiral Thompson reported. All Guardian systems are being drained. That's when Sarah understood the true nature of the Guardians' plan. They're not trying to destroy it, she said. They're trying to show it something. Through her connection to James, she felt the Guardian Network open itself completely to the Devourer entity. Instead of fighting its consumption, they allowed it to feed, but not just on energy. They fed it memories, experiences, the full spectrum of human consciousness. The Devourer entity suddenly stopped its attack, its dark form convulsing as it processed what it had consumed. For the first time in millions of years, it was experiencing something other than hunger. It was feeling hope, love, curiosity, wonder, all the emotions that made humans fight beyond reason. It's changing, James said, his voice filled with awe. The human experiences are rewriting its core programming. The entity's darkness began to fade, replaced by something that had never existed before. A devourer capable of creation instead of consumption. It looked at Earth with new understanding, seeing not food but potential, not prey but partners. We offer redemption. The transformed entity spoke, its voice reaching every mind on Earth. We have consumed countless worlds, but we have never been consumed by anything greater than hunger. You have shown us there is more to existence than feeding. The new alliance. In the days that followed, the galaxy watched in amazement as the most feared force in existence became protectors instead of destroyers. The Devourer entity, now calling itself the Redeemer, worked with the Guardian Network to restore the worlds it had consumed. "We're going to need a bigger ship," Captain Rivera said, watching as representatives from dozens of species approached Earth. The first galactic council, meeting in millions of years, was being held in Earth's orbit, with humans serving as mediators between ancient enemies. Sarah stood on the deck of the Deep Current, now orbiting Earth alongside the Guardian structures. Through her connection to James, she could feel the vast network of consciousness that now spanned the galaxy guardians, reformed devourers, and dozens of species working together to build something new. "Was this always the plan?" she asked. "The original guardians hoped," James replied. "They knew that eventually a species would emerge that could do what they couldn't, not just fight the darkness, but transform it. They built us to be bridges, not just weapons." The transformed volunteers had become something beyond human, but they remained connected to their species. They served as Earth's ambassadors to the galaxy, their expanded consciousness allowing them to understand and communicate with beings that existed in completely different dimensions. "What happens now?" Admiral Thompson asked. "Now we explore," Sarah said, looking out at the stars with new eyes. "The galaxy is full of young species that need guidance, old threats that need redemption, and mysteries that need solving. We're not just Earth's protectors anymore. We're the galaxy's teachers." The Guardian network had evolved beyond its original purpose. Instead of sleeping between crises, it remained active, constantly monitoring and nurturing the development of consciousness throughout the galaxy. And at its heart, human determination and curiosity drove it forward into an uncertain but hopeful future. As the first human ambassador ships prepared to launch toward distant stars, Sarah felt a deep satisfaction. Humanity had found its place in the cosmos, not as conquerors or victims, but as the species that refused to let anyone face the darkness alone. The age of isolation was over. The age of unity had begun. And in the depths of space, other ancient guardians were awakening, called by the signal that said, "The bridge builders have arrived. The real work can finally begin." Earth had become the heart of a new galactic civilization, one built not on conquest or consumption, but on the very human idea that everyone deserved a chance to become something better than they were. And in the vast network of consciousness that now spanned the stars, the echo of human laughter could be heard, the sound of a species that had looked into the abyss and decided to build a ladder instead of falling in. The silent guardians were silent no more. They sang with human voices, dreamed with human hearts, and reached for tomorrow with human hands. And the galaxy was finally, truly alive. Asterisk.